Oh, this is insane. This is crazy. It really got me fired up. Basically, in St. Paul, they just passed a new rent control measure. Now, here's a recent article, but I have other articles pulled up basically saying this is the strictest rent control law ever implemented in the world, including socialist countries, where this kind of makes me wonder. A lot of people on the left are like, hey, you right-wingers are calling everything socialism. What's socialism? Well, here, look. America is implementing laws that are more socialist and more stringent than socialist countries. I mean, this is insane. So basically, developers halt projects. Mayor demands reform after St. Paul voters approve a radical rent control ballot initiative. Now, I'm familiar with rent control in Los Angeles because I own some property there. But reading this article, it's actually, I mean, LA is already kind of really screwed with rent control. Like, their prices are off the charts. It's really hard to get an apartment. When you want to get a new apartment, it's much more expensive than it should be. So LA has totally screwed themselves there, and there's a lot of neighborhoods that are really dilapidated. A lot of the housing apartments, people crammed into housing. Everything's broken down. Landlords have, in a lot of neighborhoods, landlords don't have any incentive to fix up or maintain. And on the total opposite scale, other landlords have doing cash for keys programs where, if the property owner or investors have a ton of cash, they would just pay everybody cash for keys, remodel the place, and raise the rents and make a ton of money with that because demand is off the charts. And hey, if you have a couple $1,000,000 to give everybody $15K, and buy the apartment building, give everybody $15,000 or whatever, however much they pay for cash for keys, I guess they can make a lot of profit. But it's not your regular person that can get an FHA loan, like a mom and pop, like, hey, we want to invest and buy an apartment. No. This, you need a lot of money to pull this off. But this is way worse than LA for three things. One is it's capped to 3%. Usually other places are, a certain percentage plus inflation. Like Social Security is going to be going up. Social Security, because of all this crazy inflation, Social Security is going to be going up 6% this year in 2021. But this thing is capped at 3% no matter what the inflation is. Then they have something called vacancy control, meaning whenever somebody moves out, well, usually the landlord or the investor or whoever, even though there's people paying not that much rent, eventually, the turn is a lot slower under rent control cities, but eventually some people end up moving out, and you can buy the building and then maybe have one unit move out and then remodel it, So that's also nice too. You have a mix. It's not all complete slum, you have some units that are paying market price, so the landlord has an incentive to maintain the building, and the people who are paying market price, well, the old tenant finally moves out, the unit is renovated, so the new tenant are paying market price, and then they're kind of offsetting the losses from the rent control units. But no, this is basically rents stay the same. I guess this is to prevent landlords from kicking people out, because that's what happens under rent control. They find any reason to kick people out, or it's financially profitable to kick people out. It turns the whole customer tenant landlord thing on its head, because you get really good service at restaurants when you're the customer, when you're a paying customer. But if you're if you're a person that's paying way under market value, and the landlord can make a ton more money with you moving out, well, they're going to try to either not maintain the place at all, and turn it really dilapidated. And if you threaten to move out, that'd be great. That's even better. Or they might see, some landlords actively seek to kick out tenants by hiring lawyers, threatening people, If somebody's an immigrant, they're threatened to receive, they call immigration on them. I know it's quote unquote supposedly, I know it's supposedly illegal. All this stuff, they pass laws against that, but you have so many millions of apartments and so many millions of tenants. Like what? There's not a policeman on every corner. I've ran into landlords that have where basically we get lawyered up, and serve some people with notices and just like, hey, we're gonna go into legal battle unless here's a few $1,000, just beat it, just get here, I'll pay you, get out, and people end up leaving. But so yeah, vacancy control. When somebody moves out, the price stays the same, and there's no exception for new construction, which if you think about it, inflation is raging really hard right now. For 6%, maybe later on it's going to have 10% or whoever, So basically, the longer the person lives there, the cheaper their apartment. People's taxes are always going up. The maintenance cost is always going up. Utilities are always going up sometimes because the apartment buildings don't have separate plumbing or electricity or whatever. The landlords pays for some utilities. The utilities will all be going up. Everything will always be going up. But the rent can only go up 3%, meaning that the longer the person stays there, the cheaper their apartment gets. So this article goes into why a lot of developers are just pausing construction and not going through, pausing construction and then scrapping their plans on building stuff, which is absolutely the right thing to do. I wouldn't touch this city with a 10-foot pole. Even if you gave the building for free, it might not be worth it, because you have like this legal liability, if something, the tenant needs something repaired and, starts complaining to the city, and all of a sudden you have to fix it, but then there's not enough rent money coming in, This is a nightmare. And I'm at this point, are you even the property owner? At which point the government just nationalized your rental unit. So this is so bad on so many levels, and this is, I understand some people like democracy and put things to a vote, but some things aren't negotiable, right? Your basic property rights shouldn't be violated this hard, and I can already understand what was going to happen. Yes, I think there's going to be so many developers pull out that there's going to be backlash, and then they're going to have to go back, amend the law to have maybe there's a 10-year exception. If you build a new building, the rents could be market until after 10 years, they'll go into this super strict rent control. But even then, it's going to be awful because your tenants are going to live there. These tenants are going to live there, right? And if they're stuck at the super cheap rental rate, there's no sense of fixing anything up. And when they move out, if they ever do, I could see this. If let's say you're renting this units, like one unit super cheap, there's $500, and no amount of fixing up, no matter how nice you make it, you can't raise the rent anything more than you recoup your investment. Well, at this point, either you take your rental off the market, or if you're going to rent it out so dirt cheap, well, you might as well rent it to a family member or a friend or whoever, they can maybe pay you a little more, or even if they pay you $500, they know that you hooked them up, they're doing a favor, so they're going to be helping you, giving you compensation in some other way. Or just like either a family member or friend. Basically, all these apartments are going to go to family member and friends, and regular people who want to move there and want a new unit are not going to be able to get one. So, this is so bad. I'm speechless.